my goodness!
Have you ever trusted someone so completely, only to realize they were quietly dismantling your life behind your back? I thought I knew her. I thought she loved me. But behind that carefully practiced smile, there was a darkness I never imagined. Every decision I made, every achievement, every small joy, it was all being watched, manipulated, and twisted. My life, my reputation, even my closest friendships, all under threat, and I had no idea why. Life at once felt simple. I had a stable job, friends I trusted, and a love I believed was true. But then, small things started slipping through the cracks. A phone lighting up with secret messages, a lie that didn't make sense, the faint tension in her glance when she thought I wasn't watching. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe I was imagining things, but the unease gnawed at me, growing sharper every day. If you're new here, subscribe now because this story will take you deep into betrayal, revenge, and psychological games that will keep you on edge. And that moment, the one that made me realize just how far she would go, changed everything. What she did next almost destroyed me. It started with tiny, almost meaningless incidents, or so I thought. A late-night message she claimed was from work, disappearing for hours with vague excuses, and a friend whispering that she'd been acting strangely. At first, I shrugged them off. Everyone has moments of distraction, right? But my gut screamed that something was off. Then came the small but telling signs. I noticed her glancing at my phone when she thought I wasn't looking, or smiling at conversations I hadn't had yet. Once, I overheard her muttering to someone on a call, but when I entered the room, she laughed and acted casual, like nothing had happened. My stomach twisted. Was I paranoid? Or was this deliberate? I began watching her closely, noticing every subtle gesture, every word with double meaning. The tension became suffocating. Every message, every glance, felt like a clue or a trap. My mind raced with questions. How long had this been happening? How deep did her deception go? And then, just when I thought I might be imagining it all, I stumbled upon a detail so small yet so damning that it made my blood run cold. The first real blow hit me like a fist I never saw coming. One morning, I discovered something small but devastating. She had tampered with something that mattered deeply to me. My chest tightened, and my hands shook as I stared at the evidence. This wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate, calculated, and personal. I replayed the moment over and over. A misplaced document, a secret transfer, a subtle lie revealed through careful observation. Every action she took seemed designed to destabilize me, and for the first time, I felt the full weight of betrayal. Friends and colleagues I trusted began doubting me, unsure whether I was overreacting. Meanwhile, she kept charming her way through life as if nothing had happened. I realized I was at a crossroads. Confront her and risk alerting her, or stay silent and collect irrefutable evidence. The choice was terrifying. One wrong move, and all my efforts could be destroyed. But deep down, I knew this blow was a warning. A signal that the storm I had been sensing was about to hit, and I was ready to endure it, because the fight to reclaim my life had only just begun. I realized that confrontation without proof would be suicide. If I wanted to fight back, I needed every detail, every trace of her manipulations. I started gathering evidence quietly. Screenshots of secret messages, recordings of conversations, subtle inconsistencies in her stories. Each small piece felt like a weapon in a battle she didn't even know I was preparing. It wasn't easy. I had to observe without being seen, note every nervous glance, every slip of tone, and every tiny contradiction. The tension was suffocating. My heart raced with every step, aware that one careless move could blow my cover and erase all the proof I had painstakingly collected. I began to see the full extent of her deception. She wasn't just undermining me, she was manipulating the people I cared about, the situations I depended on, even the small routines of my life. And yet, the more I uncovered, the more determined I became. Every discovery fueled a mix of fear and adrenaline, a constant reminder that patience and precision were my only allies. The deeper I dug, the closer I came to the moment when her lies would finally unravel. I thought I was being careful, until that night. I was going through her messages, tracing her network of lies, when she almost caught me red-handed. My heart slammed against my ribs, each beat louder than the last. Every second felt like an eternity as I froze, barely breathing, listening to her footsteps approaching the room. She entered, her presence a looming threat. My mind raced. One wrong move and she would know I was onto her. I silenced my phone, minimized files, and forced my body to lie perfectly still. Her eyes scanned the room, lingering for a moment too long, as if sensing something. Then she laughed softly, muttered an excuse, and left. I exhaled slowly, hands trembling, the adrenaline still coursing through me. Lying in bed afterward, I realized how dangerously close I had come to disaster. The fear and adrenaline twisted with rage, strengthening my resolve. She was clever, cunning, and unpredictable, but she had underestimated me. I made a silent vow that night. I would see this through. No matter how long it took, no matter the risks, I would uncover the truth. And the moment she made her next mistake, I would be ready. Just when I thought I had seen her worst side, the betrayal grew darker. It wasn't just me she was manipulating. Friends I trusted, colleagues, even family members were caught in her web. Lies were whispered, loyal doubts planted. Every interaction I once took for granted now felt like a carefully orchestrated trap. My chest tightened with each new revelation. The emotional weight was suffocating. Anger, heartbreak, and disbelief collided inside me. How could someone I loved so deeply be capable of such calculated cruelty? Her manipulations weren't mistakes. They were deliberate, precise, and designed to dismantle everything I valued. Yet, amid the turmoil, a spark of clarity emerged. This betrayal had to be exposed, not just for me, but to prevent her from harming others. Confrontation was too risky. She was far too cunning. I needed a plan, precise and unbreakable, to reveal her true nature to everyone around her. And as I pieced together the scope of her deception, I realized the depth of darkness I had been blind to all along. What I uncovered next would shake me to my core. I knew I couldn't face her alone. The web she had spun was too intricate, the stakes too high. That's when I turned to my closest friend, the one person I trusted implicitly. Hesitant at first, I revealed fragments of the truth, watching their expression shift from disbelief to grim determination. Together, we began piecing the puzzle. They helped verify messages, track inconsistencies, and notice patterns I might have missed. Each discovery deepened the horror. She wasn't just deceptive, she was dangerously strategic. The psychological tension grew with every revelation. Every plan had to be executed with precision. One slip could alert her, and everything would crumble. Our alliance became my anchor. When paranoia threatened to overwhelm me, they reminded me to stay focused, patient, and methodical. Every clue we uncovered brought us closer to the truth, but also made the danger feel more real. I realized then that patience, strategy, and trust were my only allies. The deeper we delved into her manipulations, the closer I came to uncovering the full scope of her deception. And soon, the moment to expose her would arrive, leaving no room for escape. Watching her in public was like observing two different people. Outwardly, she was charming, warm, flawless. Everyone adored her. But behind closed doors, the mask fell. Cold, calculating, and manipulative, she revealed a darkness I had barely begun to comprehend. The contrast was chilling, and it made the betrayal even more personal. The psychological tension was suffocating. Friends, colleagues, even family believed the persona she presented, oblivious to the truth. I realized the challenge ahead. Exposing her wasn't just about proving my suspicions. It was about shattering a carefully curated illusion that everyone trusted. Every glance, every gesture, every word became a clue or a potential trap. A mixture of fear and fascination coursed through me. She was brilliant at manipulation, but her confidence made her predictable. I began strategizing how to reveal her true self without losing her that I was observing. And in the shadows of her dual existence, I started crafting a plan to bring the real her into the light, where no one could ignore the truth, and where the chaos she had caused would finally come crashing down. Subtle exposure wouldn't be enough. She was too clever, too convincing, too protected by her charm. If I wanted justice, I needed a plan that was meticulous, layered, and airtight. Every detail mattered. One misstep could erase weeks of careful preparation. I reviewed all the evidence I had collected: hidden messages, recordings, financial discrepancies, and patterns in her lies. Piece by piece, I organized everything into a timeline, connecting her manipulations to their consequences. With my confidant's help, we brainstormed ways to reveal the truth strategically: private exposures to key people, public revelations that couldn't be denied, and psychological maneuvers to provoke reactions that would reveal her guilt. The tension was unbearable. Every step required precision. Every decision carried the weight of potential failure. Her slightest suspicion could destroy the plan. And yet, as I imagined the moment when her flawless facade would crumble, a surge of anticipation mixed with fear coursed through me. I knew one thing: patience, timing, and careful execution were the only paths to victory. The plan was coming together, and the moment to expose her fully, when the entire truth would be undeniable, was drawing near. Days blurred into weeks, and she continued her manipulations, completely unaware I was watching. Every subtle lie, every attempt to destabilize me, fueled my determination. But patience became both a weapon and a torment. I had to restrain my anger, suppress every urge to confront her, and maintain a facade of normalcy, all while my mind raced with strategies. It felt like living in two worlds at once. Outwardly, I smiled, laughed, and acted casual, blending into the life she thought she controlled. Inwardly, I analyzed every gesture, every word, every glance, searching for patterns, inconsistencies, and openings. Each day felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of fire, one misstep threatening to destroy everything I had worked for. The psychological tension was suffocating, yet with every observation, the plan gained clarity. Patience wasn't weakness, it was power. I reminded myself that her next mistake would be inevitable, and when it came, it would leave her no way to escape accountability. And deep down, I knew that every sleepless night, every surge of fear, and every moment of restraint was bringing me closer to the moment when her world would finally collapse. The time had come to test the waters. I made a careful move, revealing a single, undeniable piece of evidence to someone she trusted implicitly. Nothing too dramatic, just enough to see if she was vulnerable and how she would react. Her response was subtle at first, a flicker of eyes, a twitch of her lips. But that tiny crack in her flawless mask sent a surge of adrenaline through me. She was clever, but she had underestimated me. Every defensive smile, every calculated word she threw out only confirmed the truth I had gathered. The tension was suffocating. I could feel her awareness growing, the possibility that she might sense something wrong. Every message, every gesture had to be carefully planned. One misstep could undo everything. Even as I watched her scramble to maintain her composure, I knew this was only a taste of what was coming. The small exposure had revealed her vulnerability, and it was more thrilling and terrifying than I had imagined. And then, just as I was beginning to anticipate her next move, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Just when I thought I had control, she made a move I never anticipated. Out of nowhere, she targeted someone I hadn't considered. Someone close, someone whose trust I relied on. My chest tightened, my pulse raced. For a moment, I felt the ground shift beneath me. My careful plan suddenly felt fragile. The audacity of her actions was infuriating, but amid the chaos, I realized it was an opportunity. Her recklessness revealed cracks in her armor, subtle patterns of behavior I could exploit. I had to stay calm, precise, and patient. Every decision now carried higher stakes. One wrong move, and she could escape, or worse, destroy everything. The psychological tension spiked. I studied her reactions, noting subtle cues, how her eyes darted, the nervous tremor in her hands, the micro-expressions betraying her overconfidence. Each small detail became ammunition for the ultimate exposure. Her arrogance was her weakness. She underestimated me, assuming I was merely reactive, when in reality, every observation, every sleepless night, had prepared me for this moment. The twist had raised the stakes, but it also made the eventual reveal even sweeter. The final confrontation was closer than ever, and I could almost taste the inevitability of her collapse. The weight of everything finally hit me. The constant vigilance, the careful planning, and the psychological games had taken their toll. Alone in my thoughts, I relived every betrayal, every lie, every subtle manipulation. Anger, heartbreak, and exhaustion collided, leaving me raw, vulnerable, and trembling. I questioned myself endlessly. Had I been too patient? Too cautious? Had I missed some critical detail? Nights became unbearable. Sleep refused me, and every shadow seemed to whisper her name. My mind replayed every interaction, dissecting her words, gestures, and the smallest inconsistencies. Fear and frustration gnawed at me, threatening to unravel my resolve. Yet, in that breakdown, a spark of clarity emerged. This emotional turmoil wasn't weakness. It was a reminder. Couldn't let her destruction go unchecked. With renewed determination, I reminded myself, patience and strategy had carried me this far. The plan was intact, and the moment to expose her, to make her face the consequences of her actions, was approaching. And when it came, I would be ready. Stronger, sharper, and unrelenting. I knew I couldn't bring her down alone. The web she had spun reached far and wide. Friends, colleagues, even family had been subtly manipulated. To strengthen my position, I quietly began enlisting allies, people I trusted, those who had unknowingly suffered from her lies. Each new ally increased my leverage, but also raised the stakes. Trust became more precious than gold. One misstep could undo everything. We shared information discreetly, verifying evidence, comparing observations, and slowly piecing together the full scope of her deception. Every revelation deepened my understanding of her manipulations, but also intensified the tension. Every conversation, every meeting, every shared secret was laced with caution. A single slip could alert her that we were closing in. The alliance became my lifeline. I no longer carried the weight alone. With every careful step, the plan gained clarity, and the moment to strike grew nearer. Her arrogance and overconfidence made her predictable, and I could feel the first cracks beginning to appear in her flawless facade. Soon, the moment would come when all her manipulations would collapse, and she would have nowhere to hide. The countdown had begun. The first direct confrontation was unavoidable. I approached carefully, masking suspicion with casual tones, while secretly testing her reactions. Every glance, every pause, every carefully chosen word became a battlefield. The air was thick with tension, and my heartbeat thundered in my ears. She was clever, defensive, and practiced. Her words twisted, her smile disarmed, trying to make me doubt my instincts. But I had prepared for this. Every slip of her tone, every hesitation, every micro-expression only confirmed the web of lies I had been untangling. The psychological chess match was exhausting, yet exhilarating. Her confidence began to waver ever so slightly, just enough for me to notice. The cracks in her carefully constructed persona grew larger with each exchange. I felt a surge of both fear and satisfaction, knowing that she was beginning to understand that I wasn't oblivious. By the end of the encounter, I walked away with clarity and new evidence. The confrontation had reinforced that my plan was working. She might have been cunning, but she had underestimated my patience, my strategy, and my resolve. The stage was set. The final showdown was closer than ever, and there was no turning back. I felt it in her eyes, a subtle, dangerous shift. She was beginning to suspect that something was wrong. Every glance she gave me carried a flicker of doubt. Every question seemed carefully measured to test me. The tension in the air was suffocating. A silent war waged in smiles, nods, and pauses. Her probing became more frequent, more strategic. Casual questions carried hidden traps, designed to expose my knowledge or uncover my plan. Each conversation felt like walking on thin ice, every word carefully calculated. My pulse quickened with every interaction, and even small noises, the creak of a floorboard, the tap of her pen, felt amplified, signaling potential danger. And yet, her suspicion was proof that my efforts were working. The closer she came to realizing the truth, the higher the stakes, and the more inevitable her downfall would be. Every misstep she made would bring me closer to the moment of ultimate exposure. I reminded myself to remain calm, to observe silently, and to wait for the perfect opportunity. The tension was unbearable, but I knew. Her arrogance and overconfidence were her weaknesses, and soon, they would be her undoing. The moment to strike had arrived. I began exposing her carefully, deliberately, using the evidence I had painstakingly collected. First, it was subtle, presenting undeniable proof to those she trusted most. Whispers spread, eyes widened, and shock rippled through the people who had believed in her facade. The psychological satisfaction was electric. She scrambled, her carefully maintained image starting to crack. Every attempt to defend herself revealed more lies, more contradictions. The mask she had worn for so long was falling apart before everyone's eyes. Her confidence faltered, and her panic was almost palpable, even from a distance. The tension was suffocating. Every reaction, every stuttered word, every defensive gesture became evidence of her guilt. I watched, controlled but exhilarated, knowing that her arrogance had blinded her to the inevitability of this moment. And as her web of manipulation unraveled piece by piece, I felt the thrill of vindication surge through me. The chaos she had sown was now returning to her, in a crescendo of exposure that she could no longer escape. The stage was set for the ultimate confrontation, the one that would leave her no room to maneuver. Once the reveal gained momentum, chaos erupted. Friends she had manipulated, colleagues who had unknowingly followed her lead, and even family members reacted with shock, anger, and disbelief. The social web she had spun unraveled in real time, and whispers turned into confrontations. Her world, once carefully controlled, now teetered on the edge of collapse. The psychological tension was intense. Every attempt she made to regain composure only highlighted her lies. Her once flawless facade crumbled under scrutiny, revealing a desperation that was almost thrilling to witness. People who had doubted me now saw the truth, and the tables had turned. I stayed observant, ensuring every exposure landed perfectly, guiding reactions subtly. Far too late, that the evidence was undeniable, her influence evaporating with each passing moment. Amid the chaos, I felt a surge of satisfaction tempered by relief. Months of planning, sleepless nights, and careful patience had led to this. The moment of reckoning was no longer coming. It was here, and she had nowhere left to hide. The ultimate moment had arrived. I laid bare the full extent of her deception, presenting every carefully gathered piece of evidence. Lies, manipulations, and betrayals that had been hidden for months were now undeniable. The room went silent. Gasps, murmurs, and stunned expressions rippled through everyone who had trusted her. She tried to defend herself, but it was too late. Every word she spoke only reinforced the truth. Every gesture betrayed panic. The mask she had so carefully perfected shattered completely. Friends, colleagues, and family members who had doubted me now faced irrefutable proof. The psychological tension peaked. She realized that the control she once wielded was gone forever. I watched quietly, a mixture of satisfaction and lingering caution coursing through me. Justice wasn't about revenge. It was about revealing the truth and reclaiming my life. And now, everyone understood the depth of her betrayal. Her downfall was complete. The chaos she had orchestrated now turned entirely against her. Months of patience, planning, and observation had paid off. She was exposed, accountable, and powerless. The stage was set for the aftermath, the emotional fallout, reflection, and lessons that would close this chapter once and for all. Finally, the storm had passed. She had been exposed, her lies laid bare, and the people she manipulated now saw the truth. Relief washed over me, but the emotional aftermath lingered. Trust had been shattered, relationships tested, and a part of me still carried the scars of betrayal. Even in victory, I reflected on the psychological toll. Patience, planning, and careful observation had tested me, but they had also strengthened me. Exposing the truth wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming control, asserting my dignity, and ensuring manipulation could never dominate again. The lessons were clear. Trust is precious, patience is power, and careful strategy can turn even the deepest betrayal into a triumph. And while the chapter was closing, the memory of her deceit would echo, a reminder of resilience and vigilance. If you found this story gripping and want more tales of suspense, betrayal, and revenge, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. The consequences of deception are powerful, but so is the resolve to stand against it. And as for her, the impact of her actions would linger long after the final reveal, a chilling reminder that no lie can hide forever.